Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's great to be back here this afternoon speaking on Bill C57, an act to amend the Federal Sustainable Development Act. You know, I last spoke here in this House at length on this bill back in October of 2017, and I really thank the opportunity to have served on the Environment Committee for a while and got myself wrapped around this topic quite well. What does it mean, or what is its purpose? Now, I'm going to refer to that specific section. The purpose of this act is to provide the legal framework for developing and implementing a federal sustainable development strategy that makes decision-making related to sustainable development more transparent and subject to accountability to Parliament, promotes coordination, action across the Government of Canada to advance sustainable development, and respects Canada's domestic and international obligations relating to sustainable development with a view of improving the quality of life of Canadians. Then there's another factor in that section I just wanted to read. The principle that sustainable development is based on the efficient use of natural, social, and economic resources, and the need for the Government of Canada to integrate environmental, economical, and social factors in the making of all of its decisions. And I bring that up, Mr. Speaker, because I'm going to dwell on that a little later in my speech. Now, Mr. Speaker, our Conservative Party recognizes that sustainability needs to be included in every decision to ensure there is a balance between social, economical, and environmental factors. We've always believed in that. And I think your record, if you check the records, Mr. Speaker, you'll find that we're the only government in the last decade and a half that has a record of improving greenhouse gases. This type of policy making ensures that not only today's generations will have a healthy and prosperous lifestyle, but it also ensures that we can pass health and prosperity on to the future generations to come. My grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, your great-grandchildren and grandchildren, Mr. Speaker, and everybody else is in this room. The importance of sustainable development is something of which all parties agree. I don't think anybody disagrees in this room that we do not have to protect the environment. The environment can survive on its own, but industry cannot. It needs to protect the environment. And I believe we all believe that in this House, and we'll fight for it very hard. This is proven by the fact that the report by the Environmental Committee was unanimous. Sustainable development is so important to the future of Canada and our grandchildren. Not only should environmental factors be considered, but we need to also consider the social and economic pillars that surround it. Let's go back a few years, Mr. Speaker. John Baird was then the minister under the Conservative government, and he supported, as our government did, a Liberal member's private member bill regarding Federal Sustainability Act. So we're going back almost 10 years ago where we were pushing for it. It was started by a Liberal member, as a private member's bill. We took it on. It was passed. We followed the guidelines. We got positive results, better than I can say for this current government. The Act requires that all government decision-making be reviewed through an environmental, economical, and social lens. And I really want to stress the social lens in the appropriate balance. And that's a bit of a rub, Mr. Speaker. You know, I had a great working career in the RCMP, and I've lived in the energy sector of Alberta and British Columbia since about 1986, give or take a few years. And I also had the opportunity almost 20 years ago to work directly in the oil and gas sector as a regulator, enforcer, for the province of British Columbia after I retired my police career. I think I have a pretty good understanding of what goes on in relation to oil and gas exploration in Canada, the way we protect the environment, because part of my job was to make sure the companies out there were doing their job to protect the environment. And you know, I'll stand up in this House all day long and wave a fact that I think Canada, the province of BC, province of Alberta, province of Saskatchewan, province of Manitoba, and even a little bit's been done in Ontario and Quebec, that we have the greatest, strongest environmental standards in the world, and we produce the cleanest energy, regardless what it is, whether it's coal, whether it's oil, whether it's gas. We have such strong, stringent regulations that we should be proud of the fact.
Good job.
20 years ago, the BC government realized that industry was hampered, government was hampered, the public was hampered, the Aboriginal communities were hampered of over-regulations. Too many departments having separate control, all fighting and vying to do their part to protect the environment, to protect the government, and to regulate and enforce industry. So what did the BC government do? 20 years ago, they realized they needed to hire one person to oversee it and one person to try to bring it back together. And they did. If my numbers are correct, only 3 minutes left? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm talking a lot. If my numbers are correct, we got rid of a third of the regulation. Industry prospered. We got a really good working relationship with the Aboriginal communities because they could understand what was going on and they could work with the government, with industry, because of the way the regulations were modernized, improved. But if we look at this bill, I believe somewhere here, it says it would require more departments and more agencies to contribute to the federal Sustainable Development Strategy, to bring the total to more than 90 from the current 26. My God, look back at history, folks. It doesn't work. You have to modernize it, make it as efficient, as effective, as understandable, so that everybody can work together. You make it too big, government can't control it. You make it too complicated, industry and the people that are involved in it, whether it's on private land or it's on Aboriginal lands or the Aboriginal people themselves, cannot understand it. Here we are, a new bill trying to increase it by, oh my God, it's over 3 times, Mr. Speaker, over 3 times amount of regulatory. Let's get this thing back into reality. I'm sorry I'm a little scattered here, Mr. Speaker. I got told about this about 20 minutes ago. So I came in here and wrote some notes down from what I remembered. And, you know, our committee, Environment Committee, as I said earlier, did a fantastic job. And they had a unanimous report on this. And our Conservative members on the Environment and Sustainable Development Committee supported the changes to the FSDS. And they wanted to ensure, as did the Liberal members and as did the NDP members, that economical, social, environmental considerations are accounted for by the Government of Canada. They wanted to make sure that happened. They wanted to ensure the Act included measurable targets and enforceability. Measurable targets and enforceability. That's so important because you can throw out a handful of rules and regulations, but if you can't enforce them and you can't ever make that number, why put it out there? Make it reasonable so all people participating, whether it's the Aboriginal community, it's people living in the area, it's industry, or it's government. If we all work together and we can understand what we're all doing together, we can accomplish a lot together. Finding an appropriate balance. There's my friend across from the Great Northwest Territories, and he knows what I'm talking about. Finding an appropriate balance, especially between the environment, the economy, and there lies the whole up. We can get everything to work together, but we must make it balanced. How much time I got left, Mr. Speaker?
No.
4 seconds? Anyways, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I had more to say. I could have probably done another 10 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Rivière, Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened very attentively to my colleagues' debate. Does he not agree that our planet is already facing the effects of global change, that from wildfires that rage longer and harsher to thinning ice, that there is a need for such legislation to protect our planet, to protect Canada? Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
I'd like to thank the honourable member from across. And yes, I do agree with you. But Canada is protected. We have a good set of rules and regulations in place. I'd hate to tell you, but we had fires shortly after this nation first, not even nation, but when this earth of ours developed, we had natural fires. We are going to continue to have fires. We can do everything you want to stop fires. Fires will start. We have lightning caused by the weather. We have weather trends. Yes, things dry out some years. Some years they're so wet you can't even get into the forest. These are natural things. Can we control them with this? No. Those are natural things that have been happening over decades, hundreds and hundreds of years. Fires have always been. The problem with it, man wants to stop the fires. The fires controlled a lot of our environmental problems that we have today, such as our pine beetle.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I want to remind the honourable members to place their answers and questions through the chair. Questions et commentaires, questions and comments. The honourable member for Whitby.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was expecting you to go to the other side, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've raised this point before in the House where the Insurance Bureau of Canada said between 1983 and 2005, Canadians paid about $373 million in insurance costs related to weather-related events. Between 2005 and 2015, that number tripled to $1.7 billion in costs related to wetter, warmer, wilder weather. Does the honourable member across the way not agree that Canadians are paying exorbitant amounts of money for the cost of weather that is caused by climate change, and we should be doing something about it? We've put in a comprehensive ocean protection plan. We've put in a comprehensive plan to ensure that we're charging for pollution. We are taking the steps needed to ensure that those costs that Canadians are already paying in astronomical numbers are reduced. Does he not agree that this plan, this piece of legislation, helps to contribute to Canadians' sustainability now and in the future?
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Well, I can kind of say no. The member brings up a very good point. And I would just like to explain one aspect of what she's talking. Let's talk about floods. So many of our areas in Canada, from coast to coast to coast, I'll even include your northern coast there, my friend, we as a government, whether it's a municipal government, a provincial government, or a federal government, we allow people to build properties, residential, industry, and business on plains, flat plains, caused by rivers. If they were taking the time to maybe talk to an early pioneer of that area, that would have probably told them that thing flooded in 1901, it flooded in 1896, it flooded in 1932, but do we listen to them? No. We sit around a table with a bunch of scientists, reading a book, and coming up with a good, reasonable fact. Take the common sense approach that you say in here, use social people, use people from the communities who understand. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for King Vaughan. We have very short period for a question.
Oh boy, because I was going to say I wanted to thank the member across the way from Yellowhead for his contributions on the Environment Committee. I very much enjoyed the work that we did together. We did a great job on this FSDA and FSDS, and he's spoken to many of that in his speech. But I am really confused because we did a unanimous report, and I'm confused why today we're debating a clause that was agreed in committee, and that we worked very hard on making sure that it was a whole-of-government approach that was going to be embedded. I understand his points about, making it very difficult. But you know what? If you're going to do sustainability right, it is everybody engaged. And so I wanted to have him explain why we're debating this today and why he wants to change it from what we did in committee. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yellowhead in 30 seconds or less, please.
People's minds change. Give it a longer time to take a look at it. You see where the errors and the mistakes are, so you stand up and try to correct those errors and mistakes. Thank you.